I'm going to talk about and teach you guys how to do a mound design. And we're going to make our mound design in a mug. So when you come to lab, you can bring your own mug, or we'll have some available for you to choose from. If you're choosing your own mug and you're bringing your mug to lab, just be careful about what you are going to bring. This one is my favorite one, and these are the flowers I'm going to use. And although they look good together, there's another mug that I think looks a little bit better than this one. Now, this is a cute mug, but it doesn't match these flowers, and September is not the season for penguins, right? So be careful and try to stay in season also and in matching flowers. Also, be careful about the message you might want to give. So this would not be a good message for a professor to want to give to their students. So I don't think I'm going to make my design. Plus it doesn't really match very well. So be careful about the message. If this is the message you want to give, then totally okay. But if it's not, don't. This is really the perfect mug. It's classy, nice black container with these bright colors. It's going to look really nice together. So this was my choice. Your material list for your mug mound design is a mug, 1/3 brick of foam already soaked, 3 stems of button mums, and these are chrysanthemums, and you might know chrysanthemums to be the flower that he loves me not, same family, but these are just little tiny mums here, chrysanthemums. These are mini carnations. They are related to the big carnation that you're used to seeing. I have one right here, related to this carnation, but they grow in what we call a spray with a lot of flowers on the spray versus the single stem like the standard carnation. You're also going to be working with leather leaf. This is going to be our green. Now, the one thing I want to point out in your leather leaf is if you turn it over on the back side, you'll notice that some of them have these little dots on the back here. And that is not an alien. It is not going to hatch any type of worm, bug, fly, anything like that. This is actually the seed. This is the pollen, and it's the reproductive system. So these little things are what burst open and disperse pollen into the air, and that's how they reproduce. Notice some don't have them and some do. So don't get freaked out. I have a daughter who's like, Mom, I'm not touching that, but it doesn't do anything to you, so it's fine. To recap, your material list: a mug, foam already soaked, button mums, mini carnation, and leather leaf. Step 1 of creating a mug mound design is getting your foam into the mug. And if you notice, it doesn't fit, right? So you have to trim your foam to fit into your container. To trim your foam, start by trimming a little bit, and then you can keep trimming versus trimming a whole lot off and then you have to start over with a new piece of foam. So you're just going to come in and cut off the corners here first. Just trim the corners. I'm going to just shave them a little bit at the bottom. And I'm going to see if this fits into my mug. If it doesn't, then I take it back out and I just start again. As I mentioned, it's easier to start by not trimming enough and coming in and trimming more than it is to trim too much off and then you've just completely wasted your foam. Once I have trimmed a little more off, I'm going to give it another try. And I'm going to gently push the foam into the mug. You do not want to bang it. This is a cellulose piece of material, and if you bang it in, you're going to squish all the little pockets filled with water, and it's not going to serve its purpose, which is for the flower to drink. One thing that you want to make sure of that I didn't do, so I'm going to have to pull this back out. Make sure your handle is either pointing straight to the left or straight to the right, and look at the square on your foam and place it so that the handle is in the side of one of the squares, like this. So that when you face the mug towards you, the flat end of a square is facing your belly and the handle is facing out like that. You can just throw your extra pieces of foam in the trash. You only want about an inch above the mug, and this is a little bit too much, so I'm going to gently push it in some more, clean up my mess here, and I'm now ready to work. So still in step one, you want to clean all your floral material and get it ready. For a mug design, we're actually going to use these individual side pieces, which are called laterals. And we're going to take the laterals off. What I'm going to do when I get to the end here, I'm going to leave one stem. I'm going to take all the longer ones. I'm going to leave this shorter one here on what we call the mother stem and take all these leaves off. And that way, if you need a long stem, you have it. You do this to all your mums. Even these tiny, tiny little buds, save them because you might need them. The mini carnations you treat the same as the button mums, and you take them off the mother stem. Now you're going to get to something like this, and notice I have two that are same size. I have this little tiny cute little bud. Later on, when you know more about floral design, you might be able to keep that little bud, but I'm actually going to take it off, and then I'm going to decide here which one is the longest, and I'm going to take the other one off and keep one on the long stem. You treat all your carnations this way. Clean the buds off, clean the leaves off. You don't want any of these little side petals on your stem. I know you're really going to want to keep these buds, but it really will help not to have them on there. Your leather leaf. The Mug Mound design is not a very big design, so you're not going to use this whole piece like this. This is just way too large, overkill. So also take, these are called laterals, off of your leather leaf. And I usually, if you have a broken one like this, just throw that one away. I come in and I will use, make little piles of different sized leather leaf. So these are the large laterals, and now I'm going to make a pile of the small and medium laterals. I'm going to keep pulling them off until I have about a 3-inch tip left on the top of my original stem, and I'm going to save that also. Some of these are not usable. Just take those off and throw them away. I'm going to clean all of my leather leaf in the same way, taking off the laterals and leaving about 3 inches at the top. To recap step one, get your foam in your mug, clean all your stems off your flowers and your greenery. And once you've done both those things, you are ready for step 2. Some vocabulary I want you to listen out for today is working canvas, face placement, face gradation, color dispersion, radiation. Those are some words that I want you to listen to. And we're going to start with working canvas. So step 2, we create a working canvas in the foam. We're going to create our working canvas with our button mums. We're going to pick the mums that have the largest heads on them, and you're going to pick out 5 of them. So I've picked out the 5 button mums with the largest heads. Something that you don't do is pre-cut all your stems and lay them in front of you. When you make a cut and you lay your flowers down, the end of your stem starts to dry up and close up, so it's not going to be able to absorb any water. So you make the cuts to your flower immediately prior to putting them in the foam. To establish our working canvas, we are going to place 4 mums directly in center of each side of the square. The size of the flower, of the stem that you need, is the size of the diameter of the mug. So it's the size of the mug, and you come in and you trim it about a 1/2 inch in from that size. You place the mum directly in the center of this flat part, and you insert it about 1 to 1.5 inches. You do not have to insert this all the way through or all the way down. About 1 to 1.5 inches into the foam is plenty. You do this for every single one. Look at the head of your flower, come over here to your stem where the mug is on this side, pick it up, and you're going to come in and cut right inside there. So when you put it back in, it is about the size of the mug. You place the next one directly in the center of the mug. Make sure when you look down that they are on the same, that they are about the same size. You do this to the other 2 sides. Measure your flower. And insert. Notice that this one faces down a little bit. If your flower faces down, when you insert it into the center on the mug, make sure that it's facing down to the table. That actually will look better than if it's facing up. We have now placed all 4 of these in the center of the flat on each side of the mug. Some things to note. They are resting, the stems are resting on the mug. They're not high up, they're not facing up, they're resting on the side of the mug straight out, except for this one that's facing down a little bit because the head was already facing down, and that is totally okay. So they are resting on the mug, they are not up high, so whenever you put the mug up to your face like this, you can see half the flower above the mug and half the flower below the mug. Each one is also very, very close to being the same length, and that's what you want. For your 5th placement in your working canvas, you're going to do the same thing. Measure 1 the diameter of the mug, make your cut, and then this one is placed directly in the center of your design. What we have created here is a working canvas. And what that means is that there is these invisible lines from here to here to here, and an invisible line all the way around. And we are going to work inside that dome. This working canvas that we have created is a little dome. I would like you to draw a diagram of the initial working canvas placements. And how you do that is you draw your mug, add your foam, and now we're going to insert our stems into our working canvas. So this is the mum that would be facing straight towards you. This one to the side. This one to the side. Oh, I made that a little too long. And this one here. These were your initial placements that established your working canvas. And remember, your working canvas is this dome that you created. These flowers are hanging over the lip of the mug. If we looked from the top down to what that looked like, we have our square piece of foam, the handle sticking out from one of the sides, and as we placed our flowers, this is what it would look like. And this is our working canvas around. With establishing your working canvas, you have completed step 2. Step 3 is establishing your greenery working canvas. So we're going to work with the leather leaf. So the first thing we do in step 3 is we get our tips from our leather leaf and we cut them about an inch below the last leaves. So you have about an inch stem right here. These are placed under these initial placements of your mums. So you come in and you gently lift your flower up and you push your leather leaf in. Now, this is way too big. So I am going to take this out. Anytime you take a stem out of foam, you have to recut that stem because it's now clogged with foam, and if you push it back in, it's just going to push foam farther up into the stem. So I'm going to come in here and pull these little laterals off to make that tip smaller. I'm going to give it another cut, again about an inch, and now I'm going to replace it. I'm going to make sure I don't hit the same hole because then it won't drink water. And I put it in, and that is much better. That's a much better size. I'm going to place the tip under each one of these mums. I have now placed a tip under each one of the working canvas mums. Notice when I flip it up, I have all these blank spaces in between each one of these green leaves. We're going to fill up those spaces. We'll take the tip of one of the laterals, pull some of its laterals off, make the cut about a ½ inch, and come in between each one of those original leather leaf placements and place a new one. So we've placed one in between these two, Now I'm going to place one in each of these other open spaces. I have now completed the bottom rim of the mound design. If I hold my mug up, the leaves and the flowers are hanging over the lip of the mug, which is what you want. Now, we still have to create our greenery working canvas with this center top flower. You take two of your laterals. I like to pick two really nice, kind of straight ones. Pull laterals off of those where you have two nice tips. I face them the nice side together, the back side towards the outside, and like a duckbill, I'm going to come in on each side of this mum. Now, this one I can feel hit a stem, so I'm going to have to pull it back out, recut, and then make sure I don't put it in the same hole because obviously I hit the stem. You only want a little bit of the tip above the flower. When you have finished this rim and made your duckbill, you have completed step 3. You have been hearing me call this the face of the flower. This is the face of the flower. It's facing you. There is a vocabulary word that I use called face placement. And what that means is wherever you put the flower, wherever the face is looking is its face placement. In this mound, when we create this mound, we're going to have to think about face placement. So this is the face of the flower. It's really easy to think about face placement with a flower. With your leather leaf, this tip is the face. This very little tiny tip is the face. So when I'm talking about face placement and I'm looking at greenery, I'm really meaning the tip. The face placement of the flowers and the greenery in this mug are like this. This flower is facing straight up. So its face is looking straight up. The tips of this greenery is all straight up. The face placement of this flower is looking directly at you, and this flower is looking directly at me, and this one to the side, and this one to the side. And the same with these tips. So notice when you're looking at the design this way, this one is facing you, this one is facing to the left or the right of you, and this one is facing away from you, and this one is facing to the top. This is the face placement of these flowers. It's also the face placement of the greenery. When you are working, this one is the only one that faces straight up, and these are the only ones that face straight out. Everything else that you place in here is going to be facing an angle from either straight up to straight down, but not the actual straight up and straight down. So it's going to be an angle in here. The face placement is going to angle this way. And another vocabulary word is the face gradation. So this face is straight up, this one's face is straight out, and this one is somewhere in an angle in between. And this face gradation is going to go from here to here, from here to here. Step 4 is called greening up. So in step 4 of this design, we are going to finish placing most of our greenery into our mound design. We have to think about face placement and face gradation while we are inserting our greenery. We also have to think of another vocabulary word, radiation. When I say radiation, I don't mean like nuclear. I mean radiating around something. So when you are placing your greenery, you are going to radiate out from this center flower on the top, and you are going to radiate out from these side flowers as you place your stems. In greening up, we take these laterals, and don't take these huge ones and try to stick them in now. You do need to pull the side laterals off and create some smaller pieces. And we are going to randomly, and not so randomly because it's going to be in a radiating pattern, start working our greenery in. I'm going to start by coming in here on the top of my foam, and we are going to place the greenery in a radiating pattern around that flower. I'm going to continue inserting stems in a radiating pattern around that flower. What I cannot forget is this side right here. This looks really nice on the top. I'm starting to cover some of my foam. The foam is your mechanics, and you want to cover your mechanics. You don't want to see the foam. So now I see the foam on the side, so I need to make sure that I'm working on my sides and on the top. And working into the side of my foam, I'm also going to make sure that my greenery is radiating out from the center flower, and it's radiating away from its middle flower, and I'm going to spin. You need to make sure that you spin your design every single time you make about 2 to 4 insertions. Spin the design and work on a new side. If you continue to work on one side of your design and then spin it and work on the other side of your design, you are going to have a lopsided design. So you do a couple insertions, spin. So it's starting to green up. I've put some insertions on the top, I've put some insertions on the side, but when I put it up to my eye level, and it's very important that you every once in a while lift your design up, I see a lot of foam in this flat spot right here. You can see a lot of foam right in here. And so I'm going to come in there and I'm going to cover that up. I'm going to put a few more insertions in to finish greening up some of the places where we can see foam. Notice that I'm working with one of the leather leaf that have the spores on the back. That's what these are called, spores. And notice that they haven't bit me. Ouch! No, just kidding. They have not, nothing's happening. It's okay. You can touch them. You can work with them. And I'm going to come in here and place a couple, spin, place a couple, spin. I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to spin. I'm going to look, and where I see a couple holes, I'm going to fill those up. I saw a couple. I'm going to come in there and fill up where I saw a little bit of space. Now notice that even though I have said we have to cover our mechanics and we don't want to see foam, that you actually can see a little bit of the foam. That is okay, because we are going to come in with 2 types of flowers now and cover some of that up. So when I say cover your foam with your greenery, I do not mean to stand here and precisely put, 20 little pieces right on top of each other. Just visually from far away, make it so that when you look at this piece, you see the greenery and those initial insertions of flowers, not a ton of foam. And make sure when you lift it up and you spin, it's okay that I see some of that foam, but still the thing that really catches my attention right now is the greenery. Once you have completed and you feel pretty confident about filling up covering up your foam. It's okay if we still see a little bit. You have completed step 4. Step 5 is floral fill. We are now going to fill this design with the color, with the flowers. One of the vocabulary words that I went over was color disbursement. So when we're placing these flowers, we have to think about space in between the color. You don't want all the green on one side and all the pink on the other. Now that is a thing. We do have designs where we color block, but in this design we don't. In this design you want a nice disbursement of color in the whole design. I'm going to start by placing some more of my green mums in the design. I make my cut, and as I'm cutting and placing my stems, I need to remember that this is my working canvas. I still have this canvas that I have to work into. We're not going to have flowers sticking way up high like this. That is not the purpose of a mound design. In a mound design, there is even cuts all the way around. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut my stems and start placing them in my design. The things that I'm thinking about is face placement. I want to make sure the face is not facing straight up like this one or straight out like these. It's at some angle in between. Thinking of face placement, I'm also thinking of radiation. Notice that I insert a stem and I spin. That spin helps with radiation, and it also helps with making sure I'm not working on just one side, that I'm working all the way around. You don't have to spin. I mean, you can make an insertion over here, and then next time make sure that your insertion is on another side. But I like the insert and spin method. The other thing is, every once in a while, lift it up to your face, spin, and make your insertions by looking at your design from eye level. A lot of times designs are placed on tables and you sit down to eat and they're at your eye level, so you want to make sure that the design looks pretty from that angle as well as from working on from the top. A lot of time with beginner designers, that's one of the things we notice. They have this beautiful top, but they haven't lifted their design to see what it looks like around the bottom. So don't get stuck with just looking at the top of your design. So I have been making cuts. I have been inserting my flowers, and my thought has always been, where is that face? It cannot compete with this face, and it cannot compete with these. It has to be in the angle somewhere in here. I've been thinking about radiation. I have been thinking about space in between each of these flowers. Notice that none of them are on top of each other. They are just nice and evenly spaced all the way around. I like what I see here in green, so I'd like to start adding some of the pink. I still have some green flowers left to the side, just in case I need to fill in some green somewhere once I start inserting my pink mini carnations. I'm going to start with some of the open carnations. Remember, I can't use the buds right now. With my carnations, I have two sizes. I have these ones that are already nice and open, and I have these that are a little bit more closed. Remember, we don't use the bud. So I'm going to work with these open ones right now, and I'm going to place these open ones lower in the design. When they're open and larger like that, they create weight, they create heaviness, and you want the heaviness lower in the design, not higher in the design. And I'm going to save some of these smaller heads for higher up in the design. So I make my cut just like I did with my button mums, and I'm coming in here between my button mums and I'm inserting my mini carnations. This is where color disbursement is important. Don't want all the pink one place, all the green one place. I want it evenly spread out throughout the whole design. Every once in a while when you insert a flower, you will hit a stem. You do want to pull it out, cut, recut, and reinsert. You don't want to stick a flower on top of another stem. You should have been noticing that as I'm inserting these flowers, I'm spinning to make sure that everything is evenly dispersed. I just put a smaller one up on top. I'm going to put a few more on the top of the design. I'm also staying in this working canvas, and if you lift it up and you spin, you will see where you have color holes, like right here, I need to add something. Up here, I need to add something. Right here, there's no pink, I need to make sure. So always lift your design up and spin and see where you need to add flowers and color. So that one was small, and I'm going to pull it out and put it in the top and use one of my larger ones for the side. I love this color combination. Makes me happy. I often get asked if you can use these. Yes, you can. I just suggest that if you do, that they're high in the design. And the other thing that I suggest is not just using just one, because that would look awkward in this design. I only have one, and if I just had one up here in the high in the design, it's pretty obvious. If I had two more that I stuck around, it would make it more balanced. So I'm not going to use just this one, but if you have a few of those, absolutely use them. Even though I have a couple mini carns left, when I look at this design and I spin and I look around, I feel I have enough pink. I think it looks good. What I have are some holes where I see foam, and maybe some places where I can insert some of my green button mums. So I'm going to fill up with the button mums a little bit, and then I might go back in and fill with a little bit of leather leaf to cover some of that foam. I'm using the smaller headed button mums in the top of my design. This is what I meant about 3 of the smaller ones look better than just one, even in the button mums. I'm really liking how this looks. It's even, the color is dispersed nicely. It looks like a mound. It's a cute little coffee mug mound, easy to hold. Don't drink it. But I do feel that there's a little bit of gaps in there where I can see some foam, so I'm going to take some of my leftover leather leaf and fill those little holes up. Once you have finished inserting all your flowers, you have completed step 5. The last thing that I like to do is what I call tidying up a bit. I'm going to look at my design. If a flower is sticking way high up, I might push it in a little bit, try to get some uniformity in there. Maybe I have a piece of leather leaf that's just gone rogue on me. Maybe I want to fix it a little bit. Maybe I still see a piece of foam somewhere that I want to cover it up, or in this case right here, I see kind of a hole where I might want another flower. And just tidy up, look at it, and there comes a point where you have to just say, I'm done. So to recap the vocabulary, we had base placement, base gradation, we had your working canvas, radiation, and color dispersion. You learned all of those in your mug design today. And that is a mound design. I spit on myself. Boop, boop. Color disbursement. That should make some sense.